if there's any like piece of advice you'd give to like younger you, what would that be?
The first thing is you have to start. You have to pull the trigger. You have to absolutely commit that I'm not going to know everything. I don't have all the answers, but I'm going to commit and I'm going to do my first project, whatever that is. If it's rehab, it's your own home, if it's a rental, absolutely commit to doing that first project, because I know a lot of people that have done 0 deals. And I know a lot of people that have done 20, 50, 100 deals. I don't know a lot of people just did one, right? That one doesn't usually make you rich, but it starts the path to where you want to go, and so many people are stuck there. You absolutely have to do that.
Welcome back to Always Level Up the podcast. I'm your host, Carlos Garcia, and this is my co-host, Tracy Garcia.
Hello.
And we have our guest today, Nick Disney.
Hey, man.
Welcome, brother. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for being here. So for those that don't know you, tell everybody just a little bit about who Nick Disney is.
Yeah, I'm a single-family real estate investor in San Antonio, Texas. The main focus of our business is owner finance, so we'll buy, rehab, sell, and create a note. And so that's the main portion of our business. We're almost all single family, and that's our spot. And other than that, I love real estate. I love getting better, and I appreciate y'all inviting me to come over so we could chop it up a little bit.
Yes, sir. No, it's awesome, and you have an incredible story and an incredible journey and how you've gotten to where you're at, and we've worked together plenty of times, and those have always been good experiences. So let's talk a little bit about what got you into real estate. How did that begin?
I think getting into real estate, I was at a spot where I think a lot of people feel it. I just wanted more. Not that I totally knew what that was, because it's been a long time, but I wanted more than what I was getting. I had a good job. I was working hard, but
What were you doing?
I was in sales. I was working for a large corporation, sales, at that time, selling pharmaceuticals.
Okay.
Which there's nothing wrong with the job. I wasn't negative about it at all, but I felt like I could do more. We learn a lot over the time. And I was like, I know about houses. I'm handy. I fixed all this other stuff. I can do this.
I can do
right?
that.
This is a good idea. And I read some books, which that was my first introduction to cash flow, which I'm super passionate about that part of real estate investing. And I thought, okay, well, there's cash flow. And of course, I watched, like, these are the original, Flip This House shows. And that was kind of all of it. And finally, I just made the commitment. I was like, all right, I'm going to buy this house. It was a fixer-upper. And I did the work myself, which is not a good business model.
You were the contractor.
I was the contractor.
You acquired the property and you worked on the property, and then
absolutely, I lived in the property at the same time.
Whatever it takes.
And I would go to my job, and I didn't have a lot of money at the time. Like, you get the money, and then when I had enough, then I'd finish working. I'd go to Home Depot, and then I would get what I could, and I'd go back and I would work, and I'd work till late, and then I would just get up and I would go back to work. And I would finish the project up as long as I had enough money to buy the materials. The labor was cheap. It wasn't very good because it was me. It was cheap. And
that's when they didn't have a task force and pulling permits.
There was none of this, right? And it worked out. Now, that is not a sound strategy for growth, but it got me going, and that was the first one. And got through that, and then I next went to, I understood the idea of rental property. The more I read about it, the more I learned about it. I was like, okay, if I can get these assets, these things that pay me month over month over month, then I just have to stack those on top of each other. And I was like, okay. And after I got the first one and got through the nerves, and everybody has them. I don't care if everybody's got
all
them.
the fear.
All of it. All these terrible things that are going to happen if you buy an investment property, which are...
Sounds exciting.
Yeah. Finally got through them. And, after that I had my first rental, and I remember because it was right about $300 a month. And I was like, someone just gave me $300, and I didn't really do anything. I'm like, I need more $300. And so built from there, and then I mean, we've known each other a long time.
How long from when you were working full time and then investing on the side did you finally say, okay, was it?
When did like the investing take over and become? It was a long process. It was a long time.
Was that always your end goal to like retire from your corporate world and then move into investing, or was that always something you want to do on the side?
I think at first I hadn't thought that far ahead, and as we do more, our dreams become bigger. At first I just thought, hey, if I could supplement myself, but then as the years went on, and it was years and years, and it became more successful, and it also gave you this W-2 salary, which was kind of some protection, some safety, and so then it also allowed me to reinvest what I made in real estate back into real estate, which helped with growth. And so that went for a long time. But then after a while, it's kind of, I want to work for me, and my income from real estate had passed what I could make at that job. And so it was time. And I was like, okay, now it's time to commit and move forward. But I think everybody, that's their own speed and their own timeline. Because I think for people that are working a W-2 job, the real estate is fantastic to start on the side. And you don't have to take it as far as some of us have taken it.
Right.
You don't, right?
Yeah.
But you can keep that job and build on the side and do both. And it is something that you can really, really level up by adding 1, 2, 3, 4 investment properties or a couple a year. Can make a huge difference for you, even if you want to keep that job. And they can also give you the option, which I always thought, as I got closer, that was my goal. Yeah. I'm always going to work, I think. I don't ever think I'll stop making deals.
Dude, I don't know if there's like a retirement for me either, because it's like, what am I going to do when I'm retired and like just... I'm gonna start to die. Like,
we're not doing that.
I'm not interested in that. Yeah. Let's live as long as we can, and let's keep being useful, right?
Right. But I'd like to have the option,
right? Well, then you can have your leisure moments and take your trips, right? So that's always fun.
And so that's how I got here. But I love real estate in general. I love it for the average person that wants to just improve that aspect of their life and get a little better and a little better. And then I believe it's something that you can take as far as you want and whatever fits for you.
Yeah. I think with, one thing that you said that stands out is just the amount of work that you're putting in, right? From going to your 9 to 5, right? For one thing, that's already draining. 2, having the discipline to take that extra cash that you have to put it into your investment. Most people want to spend that money and party. Yeah. Nick's like, not me. I got to flip. I got to finish. and then to go to work on the project. So there's a lot of sacrifice that happens there. And I think a lot of times people don't see, what that looks like or what that even feels like, and like, how did that feel when you're going through that process?
It's not easy. We've talked about it. There's a lot of flash that's out there of how, hey, you're a real estate investor. You're probably going to be rich in about 20 minutes. Right. And you're not, right? But it is a very scalable, predictable path. But you have to put in the work. We talked about it earlier. Everybody wants all the results and all the profits.
Right.
Okay, are you willing to do the things it takes? And sometimes people say, yes, I will do anything. Okay, well, here it is.
Yeah.
Did you do it? Whoa, this or that. Yeah. And so, especially as you're getting there, I think committing to, for me personally, a couple of things that I know made me more successful: work ethic, because I can work. Right. I can keep going and I can keep working and I can keep doing. And then the discipline. And the discipline came into, 1, working when you don't want to work. And then 2, I was very committed to reinvesting what I had for a delayed gratification, for a better future by reinvesting what I had. And if you can do those things as you start out, those are those are definitely things that helped me achieve more than some people that kind of started at the same time. Because that was the path that was right for me, and they had a path that was right for them. But if people will commit the work, we can 100% do it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that because earlier you basically said, that was probably not the best strategy, but the strategy that does work time and time again is the discipline.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. And the willingness to like do what it takes to do what other people aren't willing to do. And the strategy will shift, the strategy will change. But if you have those core ingredients, you're going to continue to fail forward, as they say, until you get to where you want. And you're looking back like, I am good at real estate.
This is working
We
out.
just made more mistakes than but I do believe that it is a matter of time. If and I don't know all the great quotes word for word, but I can't fail if I don't ever quit.
Right.
And so if you just keep going, you are going to get there. You just have to get through the tough spots, and I promise you're going to have them. We've all had them, and we all still have them today. That's how it works. But you can push through them, and it is, there's a light at the end of that tunnel.
Absolutely.
Is there like a story or a moment where it was just like really hard and you thought like, okay, this is really the straw that might put me back in the 9-to-5 or get me out of, buying rentals or whatever? Was there a moment that stands out?
I mean, there's probably been several days where I was kicking the can and swearing and be like, sell it all, I'm out. Then I came to my senses. We'll give him a shout out. I don't even know if he knows this, but I can remember it because I'd had like that little bit of success, but I was still super new, super green, and I just couldn't find the properties to buy. Most of this, I wasn't making the right choices. I wasn't doing the right thing.
Right.
I couldn't find them. And I couldn't find the projects. And, I had a couple projects and they're not going well, but I couldn't find, and I'm so frustrated. And I remember thinking to myself, like, I'm good at this corporate job. Like, maybe I just forget all this, man. I'm just going to go back and work for the man.
Yeah.
And,
Sell some meds.
yeah, man, I don't need all this headache. And there's actually, there's an investor in San Antonio. His name's Danny Johnson, right? And he wrote this blog article years and years ago. I wish I had it for you. But I read it. I used to follow his stuff because he was in San Antonio, and and it said basically, he's like, man, so many people are right there. They're so close. They're so close to just tilting the scale, and that's where they quit. And I remember thinking about that, and I don't think I ever told him that. I should probably find that guy and give him a shout out. And I was like, dang, what if I'm this guy? I'm so close and I'm just not. And I think that's a lot of people.
Right.
It's very, very frustrating. There are super, super hard days. And sometimes those days when they stack on top of each other, it's even harder. But you have to know that you are probably really, really close to tilting the scale at that point. And you just have to push through. You owe it to yourself.
Right.
To continue and to push through.
Yeah. One thing that I love is the ability just to take action. Like, man, sometimes people wait, perfect time, the perfect moment, everything's lined up, and it's like, all right, the path is laid. Like, no, like you just said, hey, I'm doing this. I don't even have a plan for the next 5 years. This is this next project. I'm gonna do it, whatever it takes, and a lot of people don't ever get there because of the hesitation, because of the fear and the what ifs. And I think when you have that mentality of taking action, then obviously survival mode kind of kicks in. You're like, hey, I'm doing this. I'm in it.
I'm here. We're here.
We're here.
This is my house.
What do I do with this hammer? But then from there, you learn. You learn and the experience, which is the thing that builds the grit, right? And then through the adversity and the challenges, you're starting to find solutions because you put your back against the wall and you have the commitment. And I think this is where character comes into play, because this shows like, hey, I'm the kind of guy that if I start something, I'm going to finish it, And then from there, you decide what you're going to do. And I think that's something for people to take in and say, hey, is something holding me back, or am I ready just to dive in? I obviously don't dive in without having some kind of plan.
Right.
Have some kind of knowledge, right? I like that you went and grabbed a book. Let me
Sure,
read.
I read some books. A lot of people are so afraid that they might fail that they never take the chance and start. Mm-hmm. It's not easy, and it's not supposed to be easy. But I think when you look at it, you're really going to make a decision. Am I more scared of failing, or am I more afraid of staying in the same spot that I'm in? Mm-hmm. And
that's big.
For me, I would, if I'm not moving forward, I'd drive me up the wall. I can't do it. And I have to be there. I would rather fail and know that I did it. And I think most people are just so hesitant because they don't know. We can just give them a solid pro tip right now. You're not going to know everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
I can say that with 100% confidence. You're not going to. I don't know everything.
Nobody knows everything.
I've been doing this a long time, and we still get surprised. We still make mistakes. It happens.
And you're always going to learn something new.
We still learn new stuff. I still learn new stuff. I still get coached up by other people. I still meet people who are better, smarter, than I am. But you have to get started, even if it's not real estate, whatever your goal is, and it doesn't have to be investing. I know you work a lot with agents. Well, if those agents want to change their path, they have to start a new one. They have to be willing to commit and make some changes.
Right.
And like what you said earlier, there's going to be sacrifices with that if you want that success.
Yeah. And that's a big conversation that comes up, right? It's like, okay, yes, you can get there. Yes, we can create a plan to get there, but also be aware of what obstacles might come up and have a plan for, you're not going to know everything, but, if you do get overwhelmed, what are you going to do? Don't quit. Make a plan for what to do when you get overwhelmed so that when it comes, you're prepared, and have somebody that you trust to talk to about these things so that they can support you and give you that momentum that you need to push through, like you said, to tilt that scale. Because you're right. So many people come into it thinking okay, it's been a year. How come I'm not rich yet? And it's no, in any career, just like you said, you've got to do it for some time. And a good mile marker is a 3 to 5 year before you become have enough hours for that expertise to really kick in, where it's I can kind of do this with my eyes closed. But people aren't even giving themselves a chance.
They're not.
So I'm glad that you said that. You're right. It's so true.
So as you went from doing your first flip,
Yep.
And you got through that experience.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Sounds like it worked out.
It worked out. The world's longest flip. With the worst contractor. But it did work out. It worked out in the end.
And then from there, what was the next step? What was the next move for you?
Then I got, I continued to educate myself, learn some things, and I really learned more about cash flow. I'm super passionate about creating cash flow, and I thought that was through rentals, and I thought that was the best way. And so then I started to build a rental portfolio. Fumbled through that as well.
What was the goal? What was the goal when you hey, I'm gonna build a rental portfolio? What was the goal?
Absolutely. I know what the goal was because it was in all the books. The books are 10 rentals. You get these 10 rental properties.
You're a millionaire.
Hey, man, you just put your feet up. You're rich. So
passive income.
I got 10. And the passive income was not passive. And I was definitely not rich. And I was wait a minute. But I got chapter 9 clearly states that I am rich. And I was definitely not rich.
You had some assets.
I had some assets, and I looked better on paper than I did before. But there's no money in the account. Rentals are great, and a lot of people have created a lot of wealth for them, for their families through rental property. And so I was on that path, and I got there, and I of course had my legal pads, and I did my math and how many I would need to get the cash flow that I wanted. Obviously, while they're leveraged, was a lot.
Yeah, it's more than 10.
It was a lot more than 10. It was a lot more than 10. But I'm thankful that I had that experience. I still have a lot of those today. And so they've definitely helped. But after I did that, I learned more about owner finance. And so for people that don't know, selling with owner finance. So we'd sell the property, we'd get a down payment, and then we're going to set the person that bought the property up with a note and deed of trust. So they're making their mortgage payment to us.
You become the bank.
You become the bank.
Right.
And so that has definite advantages. Big picture, the cash flow is more, right? The cash flow is more predictable. It's set. You don't have the repair cost, which really eat in. You don't pay the real estate taxes. You don't pay the insurance. You don't have those costs. The cash flow is more, but also in my experience, it's much more predictable with less variables. So as you set those things up, so a long-term mortgage note will pay you predictably for a long time, and you have, say, this one pays you $1,400. Well, and then you can see quickly how many of those you would need to stack to reach your goal.
Right. And when you say less variables, like you're referring to repairs and stuff.
So
like
absolutely, right? So rental property, when you first sketch it out, is great, and it is great for what it does. But when you're just looking at the cash flow section of it, I've always found that the notes are going to outperform the rentals. And single family rentals is my experience. If people have had another one, I'm happy for them. But what you get is real estate taxes, they go up every single year. Anybody that owns a property,
You got to protest them.
all the time. Insurance goes up every year. You have more vacancy in those vacancy factors. So when you have a property turnover, well, yes, you didn't get rent for that month, but also you had to turn over that property. If there's damages, now you have a make ready, you have to do some repairs, and now that's thousands of dollars.
Right.
Well, when you're putting out that type of money, and on top of that, just the normal repairs, toilet breaks, et cetera, when you're putting that money out, if your cash flow on that is $300, it takes a long time to make up for a $5,000 make ready or whatever the case is. And so they are great wealth building tools, but not always do you get the cash flow that you hope for from them. And so that's when I say less variables, that I found a really good note produces consistently month after month, and it also frees up a lot of your time. You're not the homeowner, right?
Exactly.
You're the bank. You're responsible for making sure the payment gets made and a couple other things, but it's a lot less active. Still not 100% passive, but it's pretty passive.
Right. It's as good as it gets.
It's as good as I found, and if you're a hustler, then that frees up your time to go do other things.
Yeah.
To build, in another way.
Right. Exactly. Awesome. And so, what turned you on to owner finance strategy?
I'd heard about it, and what typically happens is people that are on the rental side are like, "Oh, rentals are great. Owner finance is terrible," and then people who are owner finance are like, "Owner finance is great. Rentals are terrible." Well, neither of those are true, right? They're both good.
They both have a purpose
for a different thing. And I was planning to own this 100 rentals, and okay, that should get us to the goal. And I had started marketing a lot, and so I was wholesaling deals that were not what I wanted in my rental portfolio at that time. And so I'd wholesale them, you make your $4,000 or $5,000, because I was marketing because I wanted really good rental or flip deals. And those ones, because I was still learning, right?
Yeah.
And then I realized that, wait a minute, I wholesaled to this guy. I made a little bit of money, and I was pretty happy about it.
Take your 5, your 10, whatever.
Yeah. This guy turned around. He sold it for a lot more, and now he's got this payment, that payment, this. I'm like, wait a minute, that cash flow is the cash flow that I want. And so,
so through wholesaling.
And then I got it because I was like, no, I'm not interested. And they're like, well, let me show you. We started breaking down these numbers, and I'm like,
wait a minute.
I kind of am interested.
Hang on. Show me this again. I started breaking down numbers. And so I found like, well, man, I could market, I could find good deals. And I realized I had left a lot of money on the table. Yeah. And so I learned a little more. And, it's like anything. You try to add value to people, and a lot of really good people help guide me and teach me a lot of things about their owner finance business. And so I was like, okay. And for me, it was math. I was like, okay, well, if I could getting this deal, and it's a while ago, so we're buying some of these houses, for like 35, 40 grand. And,
Everything was on sale.
and I was like, okay, we fix this thing up, and I sell it. And once I created that note, okay, here's my payment. A lot of those payments were less than, $750, but that $750 on a long-term payment, well, now it's set up. And then I realized that you can really create a win-win, and people would just pay. And I was like, I don't really do anything now, but I get this $750.
You got that mailbox money.
That's pretty cool. How many of these $750 can I get? Because these are great.
Bingo. Light bulb.
Well, and I'm like you, when it comes to quotes and stuff, I will really kind of butcher a quote, but I know the underlying concept
Right.
here.
I'm
But
with you.
it's, they say is like, as you move and take the action, the path appears, right? And it's like, okay, well, I'm learning this. And really for you, it's just some trial and error. It sounds like there's maybe some mentorship along the way,
sure.
being open to learning.
sure.
And like, again, those are, key ingredients to success for me is like, you've got to be open to like falling on your face. And then asking someone who's done it. You said you found a blog from somebody in San Antonio that's doing it. If he's doing it, let me read about what he did. Let me try some of those things. Let me apply it to myself and see what actually works for me, And then it leads you down this path of like, would you call yourself like a niche investor? Is like note buying and
that is our focus of the business. If it's a niche, it's single family. We do have a portfolio of rentals. We market a lot, so when you're marketing a lot, you'll get all kinds. You never know who's going to call to want to sell a house, and some of those don't fit well for owner finance. So we will take those down and resell. We don't do many flips, many traditional flips at all anymore. But we'll typically sell those other ones off. But the main focus, when you really drill it down, is owner finance, and then we sell mortgage notes, because you made it obviously like the income stream that we have was somebody was like, well, I want that income stream, and you can sell them the note. They will buy the note from you. Right. If you make a quality note, they will buy it from you, and then they're basically buying cash flow.
There's a whole other strategy.
There's a whole other strategy in there too, and that goes to helping people get what they want. You help enough people get what they want, you're going to get what you want.
Man, I love that you say that, and because a lot of times, what I've seen in real estate in general, whether you're a real estate agent or you're an investor or a wholesaler, like, everybody, wants it all for themselves, right? I want it all for me. It's all for me. I want it all for me, mine. But the true key to success is the win-win, right? How can I help you get what you want? So then in turn, I get what I want.
Right.
And that's the path to long-term success.
Long-term success, long-term relationships. You can be the only one that wins a couple of times.
Right.
You can't be the only one that wins year after year after year, because people don't want to play with you anymore.
You're no fun, buddy.
It's not a lot of fun hanging out with you. But you can create win-wins. You just, people say that, and then sometimes they try to force it. Sometimes you and I don't fit maybe for a win-win right now.
Right.
Okay, that's all right. That doesn't mean one of us has to beat up the other one. It just means that we haven't found the way that we win together.
Exactly.
But there is somebody out there that if you help them, they will help you. And that comes a lot when people look at like using private money and things like that. People, why do people buy notes from you? Because we give them what they want. We create a win for them, and then they're okay. We make money if someone buys a note. This is not a surprise.
We're in business.
Yeah, they're not surprised either. Every note buyer 100% knows that. But if we can give them what they want that helps them, everybody's okay with us making money as well.
Right. Yep.
And those relationships really help you move forward. It's I think you learn to look for that more, and you get better at finding it the further you get along in business. Because I definitely was not always the best at it. It's hard when you're starting. But I would give this thought or lesson. I wholesaled a property to a guy, a very successful owner finance investor. I thought I was cool when I met this guy. I was not even close to being cool, right? Of what he had accomplished. And so I was like, man, I'm gonna do a deal with him, and I knew he wanted it, and I sold it to him, and I sold it to him probably like $5,000 less than I could have sold it.
Left a little extra change on the table.
And and at the time I was like, man, I can't really use that. But I sold it to him because I wanted the relationship.
Right.
From his point of view, you know, I helped his business, so then he was willing to help me. What he has taught me has made me 10, 20, 30 times what I gave up. That relationship and helping someone's business that was farther along than me, that was a good person, that was willing to come back and helped me. It's hard for me to actually put a number on what he taught me, what I learned from him,
the value from all
that I could use in my business going forward. And so I wish I would have done that on day one. I didn't know any better. You know, I wanted that little extra money, but by that win-win, by all means, I got the better end of the deal. So
sometimes it works out that way. And I think the other thing too that you're saying, you know, that really stands out is, you know, this is not a business to succeed on your own, right? Like, man, yes, we can get so far on our own through our own efforts, and you know, we could do some pretty incredible things, but people run out of energy. Like, you're trying to carry all the weight, wear all the hats. Like, man, you need people, right? And people just bring that value, whether it's through knowledge, education, experience, like all these different things that they share that help you grow. Like you said, man, you leave $5,000 on the table, but shoot, that turned into a 200 extra grand in knowledge, and that help your business thrive and grow and take you to the next level. So, I think that's an important takeaway right there, because
that's huge.
you can't just sit here and say, hey, I'm a self-made person. You know, I had some support. I had some mentors, some coaches.
Absolutely.
I do want to talk about a support system. I know earlier we were kind of, talking about me as far coming as a mom first. Moms are busy, and there are a lot of successful and female women, mom investors, real estate agents. But I always tell my husband, I'm like, I need another me. I need another me so I can go out and do some of the things that you're out here doing. But we're not always in that season for that. But it is important to have a support system. What does your support system look like? I know you talked about your wife.
Yeah. No, I mean, she stays at home, but she's busy.
Yeah.
It's not like, she's running 3 kids. And I can't go out and do what I do without her doing that. It just doesn't work, and so there's lots of things that there's so much that she does that I guess it's not a dollar amount, but it allows us to grow and do more. And so that's probably number one, watching, take care of our kids, making sure things that are scheduled. They'd probably never go to the
manager. That's the manager of the home, running the ship over there. Keeping it nice and organized.
My kids would probably never make it to the dentist. If she wasn't
You're like, who is their dentist again?
We have a dentist?
We have a practitioner?
What is this? And so, so that's probably number one. And then in the business, obviously, I have a team, and so I don't do not even close to doing everything. Henry does a ton. Henry. Henry runs the projects now. People are like, what happened on this rehab project? There's a good chance I don't know now. Right? That's where the business has gotten to.
Let me transfer you to my partner.
I may not have been there, at all. And so he does that. And he does a lot more than I do, most like with the sales side. But and I get this question a lot, like, if you have a partner, then you give up a lot. I was like, well, okay. I don't see it as giving up, but yes, that there's splits in the profits.
Right.
But if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with others.
That's right.
But what it also allows us to do is more together. And so then what has been huge is as we've grown, don't think you need to do this coming out of the gate. It's not necessary for everybody, but we've added, more people in there. People for sales. That's not something I enjoy. Sales, people to manage the rentals. I should not be there.
I did not sign up for this.
Right. I did it long enough. If you've
wore all the hats long enough.
if you know me, I'm impatient. You know this. It's who I am. And so I'm not the best fit for that. And we've also got a guy named Jacob, and he's done a lot to help us out. He's really focused on acquisitions, and there's so many things that, yes, he's out buying properties, but that also it's kind of like we talked about with stacking the cash flow. Like, he's out buying properties, but he's better at follow up than I am. He will try that extra step that I've been like, man, I got other stuff to do. I'm not going to do it. But it also frees up a lot of my time to go do other things that the business needs. Right. And so, like, you guys have a team, and you're not doing the exact same thing all the time, but it allows us all to do more by going together. And that is, there's the home support system, and then there's the business support system, and all of that together is what results in success.
Yeah.
Right. 100%. And you talked about Henry. So
yeah.
Let's how did that relationship come together?
Man, that was a little wild. Cause I was still in the thought process of these rentals, but I was marketing.
Right.
And I got a call for the lead, and it's on the east side of San Antonio, which this was like when it was rough.
The east side was
rough.
The east
Right.
side.
Right. I should not have been there.
No gentrification that's happening over here.
None. And I go over there, and this lady's there, and she's Spanish only, and we're working through it, and then we ended up calling her daughter, and she wanted us, and I don't want to buy this house. I don't want to be in this neighborhood. I don't want any of it.
But I got the lead, and I paid for it.
and I'd heard, like, just make an offer. You can't mess it up. I was like, I'll give you $15,000 for the house. And it's like, okay, let me think about it. I'm like, okay. And I'm just like, let me get out of here. I'm like, this is gone. And so the next day, this guy calls, I'm like, pick up the phone. Hey, you the one that offered my mom $15,000 for the house? Hey, man, yeah, I'm sorry. It's the best I can do. Well, she's not taking less than $16,000. I was like, huh? All right. So now I got this house, right? And I know it's a steal. I have no idea what to do with it.
I guess I could pay 16.
I mean, 15. I was like, I just went with the price I wanted you to say no. That was my whole goal. And so now I got this house. Okay. And then she needed another house, and she needed owner financing. Mm-hmm. But I knew she had $15,000 to put down because I'm about to give it to her, right?
16.
16. And so I start calling around people I know, and I'm like, I've got someone. I don't want anything out of it, but, like, I need someone that can sell her a house owner finance. Mm-hmm. And I talked to one guy, and he gave me another person. And then that person, and I talked to him, and he's like, okay, yeah. And it was like, who are you? Are you calling us? And I'm just like, man, I'm just dialing. I'm about to figure this out. and I was like, oh. It. And we need somebody that speaks Spanish. So he's like, hey, we'll call this guy, right? He sells our houses. His name's Henry. Call him. And I was like, does he speak Spanish? So I call him. And he's like, who are you? What are you talking about?
How did you get my number?
And I'm like, look, man, I know that at that time, like, this is a pretty good down payment. Somebody told me you got houses. I need you to sell her house so I can buy this house. And she's going to have $15,000 to put down. What are you talking about, dude? And so that's where it first started. And so I met him, and he was telling me more about owner finance because the place he was at the time, that was their business model. And because I can remember telling him, and I was like, no, like, rentals is like this is this. And he's like, yeah, but this is this. And so we worked it through, and you're both right? They're both winning. And so
Chapter 9 told me.
Chapter 9 clearly states. And so we hit it off, and I had some other properties that I definitely didn't want, and he's like, well, can we buy them? And so I showed him some, and we started talking a little bit, and more, and then he and I did a couple of projects together because I mean, this was a long time. I mean,
Yeah.
we had like, hey, I got this lead. It's a good flip. He's like,
Both in the
cool.
streets hustling.
Yeah. And but I'm like, hey, I don't have any money. So, do we know anybody with money? And he's like, I don't think we do.
Let me start down some numbers.
I don't think we know anybody with money. And so we put a few together, and it grew over time. And we we're like the odd couple, you know. We're both very good at very different things.
Yeah.
And we both accept that. And it grew over time, and then eventually we kind of said, like, hey, you know, if we're going to do this, you got to draw a line in the sand, and we got to go for it. And so, so Henry's my business partner today, and we wouldn't be where we're at if he wasn't and hasn't done what he did.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think it's so important that, you know, a lot of times what I've seen just by observing the business, because, you know, I was a stay-at-home mom for a long time too, but, you know, people try to partner together, and they're either start off as friends and they have a lot of the exact same qualities that don't complement each other. So then when it comes to business, it becomes hard to grow, because I think it is important to, yes, have some synergy between the two partners, but also to like be a yin and yang. There's something that you are really good at, that's something that he's really good at, and then when you can put those together and kind of divide and conquer, there's just like something magic that happens.
Absolutely. And I think the other thing, because people ask me, like, how did you guys, like, how does this...
How do you even know him?
How'd y'all hook up?
Right? And but one thing that we do align on is work ethic. Mm-hmm. I never have to think like he's not out working. That's never it. I've never had the thought. Right? So we both share that part, which makes a big difference. Like he is more patient than me, which is good if you're going to work with me, because, I mean, there's some times where I can...
Surprisingly, he does have a lot of patience.
I can be slightly intense. And so, but we never have to worry about, is the other person working? We don't have to... We always know that our goal is aligned. We may not agree. And we also have the ability to disagree and not... Because we disagree, he's not mad at me that we disagree, and I'm not mad at him. But, you know, like, if... Neither one of us is always going to be right, you know. And so we have that ability to do that, and then how do we move forward towards the goal?
Right, and you know, I think that's so important when you have somebody that you start doing deals with, you start doing business with, and you find that harmony in that relationship in the beginning, and then over time, as you kind of figure each other out, learn each other, and I think this is probably something that went well for y'all, is just doing that straight, honest business with each other, that really, because it builds trust, right? And that's a rare thing, or it's a hard thing to find in partnerships and relationships, is people that you can trust, and trust lasts a lifetime. As long as people say trustworthy, right? As long as nothing goes left or right, but for the most part, understanding that it just took time to build the relationship, and it took time to find the right fit, and like Tracy mentioned earlier, these doors open up, these opportunities come up, and you don't really know what it looks like, but it's just like, hey, at some point we draw a line in the sand. We want to do this. We can make some great things happen. We've already done this much. What would it look like if we put our minds together and create this? The mastermind alliance, right? Essentially, is what it becomes.
Right.
And then. It turned into a pretty awesome.
To where we're at now,
man, so I love that. I love that story right there. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Because I think it does take a special point in your own growth journey to say, look, there's no way I can do all these things on my own, right? It's like, who else can share in kind of the heavy lifting, along the way you learn the things that you don't want to do too, right? It's like
absolutely.
Managing people is not my thing, but I know in order to grow a business, somebody's got to manage somebody. So who can that be, right? And just being real intentional and strategic about, and honest with one another about, okay, how we align and what we both want, and so that we can just put that game plan together to get there.
And in business, one person can't have the biggest slice of the pie. There's so much that has to go into the business and the operations. Like, you have to pay a lot of people, There's a lot of expenses, and there's people that that they need to be taken care of. So
Absolutely.
how do I slice that up? How do I take care of it? At the end of the day, it's not all for me, but how can I contribute to making other people's lives better and still at the same time make my life better so we can scale?
Right. And those people, you find the right partnerships over time with that, from everything. I think about like private lenders a lot like that. It's a very capital intensive business. It takes a lot of money. We use a lot of private lenders, and we pay a lot of interest. If you look at the books at the end of the year, like, man, that's a big number in interest paid out. But that allowed us to do more.
Right.
And while yes, most of our private lenders like us, if we don't pay them, well, then they're not going to give us the money to do what we do. And so you break up those pieces. And yeah, it'd be better if we never had to pay interest, but that's not part of it, right? Yeah. So this goes here. And then, okay, man, this guy was out hustling and he found this deal. So this goes here. This guy did this and this guy did that. And so, but by doing that, we can all find a spot where we fit, and you'll find good people. And like we talked about earlier, those long-term relationships, from everything from the people you work with to even lenders, because there are lenders that will really lean on new folks. Oh, you need it? Well, then it's this, and it's aggressive, but those aren't long. As soon as that person becomes better, right? Then they don't need that super expensive money anymore. They can, and so it's not that long-term relationship, which the long-term relationships always profit everybody more over time.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. So as you've gotten to this point, in your career, what does the next level look like for you?
Scaling it up, and we're in a good spot. I'm a person that isn't typically satisfied. I'm not unhappy, but I am fueled by growth. I want to do more. Right. And so ways that we can scale the business, but I like the single family. That's, it's our lane. It's what we're good at. We stay there. I like the owner finance part of it. So how can we scale that up? And looking at some different things, and definitely interested in possibly putting together a fund in the future, nice. That we can, work with more people and build more. And so that is something that definitely looking at doing, and then but continuing to make notes and grow our relationships and our investors is what's right in front of us next.
That's awesome. Yeah, and that's the thing is, like, if you don't have a vision for that next level and what you want to do, it's like, man, you can kind of stay stuck, right, or complacent, or and one thing that I've learned is that comfort and leisure are the two things that kill success, right? Because the moment you want to kick up your feet and just like chill and not do anything, then that's where things start to go in a different direction.
And other things can slip. When that drive starts to go, the other things tend to slip. It doesn't just, you get there and it just, well, it's all here now.
You never arrive.
Smooth sailing.
Right? I'm here.
Clear waters.
And I stay here. No. Life happens.
Life happens.
If there's any piece of advice you'd give to younger you, what would that be? Maybe if someone is just starting out and they're kind of, working a 9-to-5 and trying to get into real estate, maybe, or.
I think the first thing is you have to start. You have to pull the trigger. You have to absolutely commit that I'm not going to know everything, but I'm not just willy-nilly, like you said, get some education, right? But I'm not going to know everything. I don't have all the answers, but I'm going to commit, and I'm going to do my first project, whatever that is. If it's rehab, it's your own home, if it's a rental, absolutely commit to doing that first project, because I know a lot of people that have done 0 deals. And I know a lot of people that have done 20, 50, 100 deals. I don't know a lot of people just did one, right? That one doesn't usually make you rich, but it starts the path to where you want to go, and so many people are stuck there. You absolutely have to do that. And then the second piece is kind of what we talked about earlier. Look for where you can add value to those relationships, for people that you'd like to learn from, for people that you'd like to build relationships with. If I could go back in time, I would have given up a little bit earlier, to build some of those relationships with people that had done more than me, had gone farther, that could really help me develop faster, I would really look for ways to do that. And it's hard, but giving up a little now is going to pay back so much in the future. Those are the two pieces that I would want everybody to grab a hold of.
I love that. That's awesome.
Yep.
Any book recommendations for anybody? Because you entered chapter 9. And I'm curious what book is this? Or anything that's fresh on your mind that you could think of that you would recommend to anybody.
A couple. I mean, Rich Dad Poor Dad. I put it out there. It's not an original story, but I read it and it really got me thinking. And I was not thinking about cash flow so it really, while it's not going to give you the actions, the thoughts in there, and I did take a lot away from it, and it fueled me wanting to know more. And then there's a book called Deep Work, which overall talks about just being really focused when you're working. Right? There's so many distractions, so many things going on. Okay, you're going to be so much more productive if you can zone in for 30 minutes than halfway work for 3 hours. I think that can really help people, especially when they have another job and we have a limited amount of time. Really, really being focused and intentional. And then a super easy read that I like is called Eat That Frog.
Oh,
so
Eat the Frog.
Eat That Frog. It talks about basically doing the hardest thing in your day, but do it first, get it out of the way. Because I think a lot, me included, sometimes I'm like, I don't want to do it. I'm gonna do it later. And then it doesn't happen. And it was probably what you should have done, the first thing. So those would be the book recommendations that come to mind right out of the gate.
Those are all solid.
Yeah, I love those. Very, very practical, and I love that the first one you shared is, like you said, it's about the thoughts. It's about the thoughts we have. So much is because of the thoughts that we have, whether they're pushing us to take the action or holding us back. So that's excellent recommendation there.
Awesome. And for those that are watching and that may want to get a hold of you, or where can they find you?
Yeah. So I'm on the website, sellmysanantoniohouse.com. But if you
house to sell,
but send me an email, Nick, N-I-C-K, and it's the website, sellmysanantoniohouse.com. Or I like Instagram. Real estate _Nick, and then the number 1. If we're on there, if we can connect and if we can work together, that's how the relationship starts. So I'd love to meet you, have a conversation, whatever it is. Shoot me a text, send me an email, and we'll take it from there.
Love it. Well, Nick, thank you for being on the show, brother. I appreciate you.
Hey, I had a great time. Thank you all for having me. Yeah.
Thank you all for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one.
Thanks, man.
Love it.